I was having a conversation last night with someone who said we wouldn't be here. His name is Ben. If he comes here late, just complain this day.
Is he reading too?
He might be later. But we had a long conversation about the symbiosis between poetry and painting. How, of course, in New York, back in the day, everyone hung out with each other. You can even go back in time with like traditional Chinese landscape painting. Those two were inseparable. And I'm not going to talk too long, but I just think we should do this more often. You know, I mean, poetry. And my favorite paintings to me is poetry. My favorite poems paint something in my mind. So why not? You know. Yes, we're going to just do alphabetical order. First is Griffin Brown. Griffin.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you to Jeffrey for this opportunity, to SFA Projects, and to all the artists represented in this wonderful exhibition. Also, it's great to be in such good company here. So I'm going to try to shoehorn 7 poems into my 10 minutes. So we'll see what happens. This one's pretty new. First one's older, but it's ekphrastic, and I thought fitting start for an art exhibition. Wrong artist, but. Black Curtain, after an oil painting of the same name by Peter Joy. As is always the case with Joy, we are on the inside. Outside, this time, is a coast we all know. The view is ideal. The day has reached an end. The water is mostly still, and the moisture in the air makes every light into a star. In the distance, another landmass, likely just as calm, as long as the curtain stays where it is. It hides the riptides, renders the outside, and anesthetizing blue. And yet, at the horizon, where the curtain is threadbare, there are hints of something beginning to break through. Pointillist splotches, possibly storms, threaten to upset the scene. The longer we look, the more salient decay becomes. It first shows at the top of the frame. The night turns wan, ashen, as if reneging its depth. Then we lose the lines of the cliffs, their strict definition, and wonder at the lack of waves and what is beneath the surface. We could assure ourselves that the hazard is past, that this barrenness is the detached consequence of a prior reckoning. But through the holes, we are getting wet, and soon the outside will flood, unfiltered, into the numb interior. Pretty balmy weekend out there. Summer in Queen Village. Queen Village is a neighborhood of Philadelphia. It's impossible to leave my apartment except in the evening, when the heat has risen out of the asphalt. Steam after days it rains, the small cyclone spinning off my headlights. The lawn chair couple on the corner who know no one now living in the neighborhood. They wonder whether the earth is really getting hotter. If it weren't, wouldn't we still think so anyway? Doesn't every generation think it gets harder every day? We've sat around and watched so many of our dogs die. I take Fitzwater back from Passaic, that bastard Anglicization of a beautiful phrase. I nod to the old man at the end of the block, surveying the intersection as they stoop from the doorway, thinking, this is what old men like, to be acknowledged for their just standing there, retrofitting the future of their youth in me, the shipbreaker, bloodshot and covered in brine, who renounces his gift for a career in sculpture, traveling the world with his crepuscular black dinghy made of polypropylene that's claimed from the blue chip terrace by the great Art Basel Miami Beach tsunami of 2045. IKEA. I was thirsty, so I had a Sprite waiting for my turn with the bait caster at the end of Pier A. We were permitted 4 blackfish a day. The rest I had to throw back into the basin. This is what I do now. Make enemies of strangers. They don't carry adapters for those travel helmets for toothbrushes. The discounts are free. You just have to sign up for a membership. Also free. I parked my car a ways from the entrance. The space is there like an expanse of fallow patties, thinking I have nothing to bring home. Not going to worry too much about it. Spring Haiku also fitting, at least for me, maybe not. I was just in Japan in May, so only had a few books to read while I was there. This is Variations on the Theme by Spitaiva Feinstein. Elaine Feinstein being a great translator of Marina Spitaiva, and a poet of her own right. The theme is, now, as a guest from heaven, I visit your country. 1. Now, as a guest from heaven, I visit your country. I wanted to act naturally and disrobe. I'll spend the night on the mountain, cajoling wild monkeys for the stories you've repressed. 2. Now, as a guest from heaven, I visit your country with empty hands. 3. At last I've arrived, having read nothing but Purgatorio on the 8-hour 3-leg journey. A retiree idling in a hatchback insists on giving me a ride from the station to my hotel, whose garden of island knolls and fine white gravel pathways imitates a bay in all but color. People say my land is strange. On a good day there, I too feel like a guest. 4. Heaven has been depicted as a limitless beach, as a winning kingdom in the clouds dominated by a small native population. As a guest from now, I scale the sand dunes rising like a monument on the exterior Chugoku coast, and half the world is waking from its dream. All right, this one's pretty flabby, but it's meant to be read really fast, so I'm going to this is the One Breath poem. Categorically distinct from a wildfire, I do not arise unremitting in a given season, mined among redwoods, the Ventura County cliffs, from an overabundance of old-growth chaparral, and I am far from home wearing a necklace of bears atop a peak on the Teton Range. I've been supplied with all the necessary equipment for shattering my soul in some unfathomed canyon, inside which I might find that snowflake crystalline interior life of geodes, widely circulated in preschool through one of the state's more laudable initiatives, the dissemination of mystery. Benighted, fewer synapses than yogurt cultures, I give the minimum to my loves and my employers, whom I've only heard referred to as the committee. Committee, I am a sociopath, content with never meeting anyone, and sitting down to write in order to stand up again as quickly as possible. So unbearable is the thought of ever having to do anything but this white-hot enterprise of revising life full-time. Not that anything is wrong. I'm boarding what appears to be a museum with installations principally consisting of unstrung bass guitars, shoelaces, empty tuna cans, enamel paint, and anarcho-punk bumper stickers have somehow won the admiration of the Academy, the financiers, and the impoverished bohemians tethered more fundamentally to place than ever before in history. You have to charge your life at a wall 3 to 4 times a day, depending on how vigorously you use it. Conversing with someone, we receive more and less than that person, the aspects that flower spontaneously. A conversation with oneself is dangerous and potentially revealing, like writing when you're lonely on an airplane. Something to make the hours pass and yet occupied but fruitless, they actually elapse slowly. You, clasped between 2 snorers while the tank refuels forever, cloth notebook wasted with the same turns, same images, and sweat collecting in the anterior creases of your left wrist. On average, you stop breathing about 10 times an hour during sleep. Park Avenue. Can you imagine it? Not bordering the park, but there are tiny park vertebrae iterating its spine for miles. This road I stretch wide, wider than can be suffered, so that the many green streets are block-sized themselves, the lanes around them not scaling in tandem. The process continues exponentially, rapidly flaring the median, and by Midtown there is an unlimited meadow before me. I climb a few heavy feet up to a stream following the contour of a crest and see beyond, in the valley below, winding blocks of hillside ranchers and down another tier, floating torsos in the Pacific. That dark blue, enviable confidence. I have seen you only 2 times since. You left your glasses on my dresser, which I then had to ship across the country. If you need any money, write. Okay, I have 2 more and they're pretty tight. I'm also a composer, write a lot of 2 types of music. End to end. Worry about the garden? Why? I hear myself clearly. I even sound like myself. The afternoon sun wears thin through the lot boundary fence. Just a ray remains. Streaming past the neighbor's house, it selects the spider plant draped over the low hands of the whiskey tree. The mums sing a melody I thought would sit well in their colorful voices. Rising up and up, it's very romantic at first. Piquant, mainly stepwise, facing a widening diatonic interval, and all of a sudden, I feel what will become of me. Schubert in his last 3 months, D 958 through 60, typhoid and syphilis, and still he knew the work needs one more evening. The sense of fall too early, lots of other uncomfortable things. But now, the asters take up a liaison in the alto, perfectly spaced. Inside, a caved-in ceiling. Girl's thin shirt, I can see her skin breathe. Amazing landing gear and everything, you know, made how I would have it. Last one is called Personality. Blue, blue eyes, impossibly real, spoiled blue. The way you seem to keep the sun out late into the night. Words, no words. The intensity of gesture. Goosebumps tracking kneeward from the hem of your skirt. I believe them. I believe you. The sea is so convinced of the moon. Thanks.
And this, actually I wrote in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. These people strolling through the park with baby carriages and frisbees have no idea my sister choked to death on a sausage after being released from a mental hospital down south. But they may know I've been crying and wonder what I'm writing in my little yellow book, sitting in the grass next to the only dandelion left in the park with my big black dog, whose fur is shaven on one side. And they may notice I'm wearing yesterday's clothes, and my gray hair hasn't been combed lately. But maybe not, because a young woman with a child stops before me, asks where the duck pond is, and waits, smiling, as I explain the best route. And her little girl looks right in my face, asks if she can pet my dog, and what his name is, says, he's pretty. And this poem is called Like Job, J-O-B, Job, so if you're not familiar with the biblical story of Job, you don't really have to understand the poem, but it gives you a little, like, there's a certain twist of thought that comes from that, from understanding I never liked the story of Job when I was a kid, so you'll get that when I read it. It's sort of in my consciousness. Is it April when the spring peepers start their chants that seem to come from every inch of the valley flooded by melted snow? How green suddenly spreads over what was frozen, then thawed, muddy, the fresh graves. My heart has not sown itself, not mended, and old scars are still thick and ropey under new wounds. I feel them when I breathe, feel them hardest when I start to laugh. Yet now the green spreads over the mountains and the valleys, and the raspberry bushes have white blossoms, and purple and blue flowers interrupt the vast green. And the sun is warm on my small head, and the slight breeze touches my face and shoulders, and I want to brace my heart as against a dangerous lover, but I give in. As I allow the unexpected hurt, I allow the inexplicable balm. And on, whenever death comes and finishes things off, and you almost can't stand it, but you know you have to if you want to live, and you know you want to live. So when the sun shines on the trees with their new green leaves, you let it sway you, though you never liked Job. Okay, and this poem is called It Is Easier. It is easier to believe in real things. A horse with a large head and soft nostrils, pushing her face against your chest, nudging you. You comb tangles out of her long, heavy tail, with fingers cleaning the dirt out from around her udders, curry-combing the loose winter fur, now it's spring, rubbing her chest and back, kissing her sides, exchanging air, nostril to nostril. You don't have to name anything. You don't have to renounce anything. Light on leaves and dirt, light flickering. You don't have to say anything. This poem is called Summer. It's nice to see the children here. When everything is quiet, you can hear the insects in the grass. Wet grass soaks through my socks. Low clouds veil the mountains. I teach my grandson to put his nostrils up to the horse's sides and breathe in. He laughs. It's funny to him, this new thing only Grandma does, the smelling of horses. When I swim across the lake and see a great blue heron stalking a frog, when I see her snatch him up in her beak and shake him until he's still, and then dip him in the water before gulping him down, I realize I'm not to blame. The thunder is distant, and the wind is touching me with coolness. Now the thunder is closer, and the insects are whining. Nothing will ever undo these bees on these purple flowers, the rain starting up again, hitting the lake. Drop, drop, drop. Each a little plop, a little dimple, and a little leap. Listening to rain now, I can't seem to stop sighing. Okay, I think I'll read this one, Renewal. I've walked in the warm shadows, listened to the sounds of the invisible world, prayed to tiny blades of new grass, to mounted worm castings and broken acorns, to a silver thread of water breaking over smooth dark rock. The age of a person is not apparent in the color of the sky. This old woman's been planning her own funeral, but here she is, seeing the witch alder's shadow on smooth brown dirt, just as, leaning over the side of the gray wicker pram, she first knew darkness shapes and is shaped by light. I think maybe I'll just read one more. Something like this. This is called April. I am going to breathe as the uncelebrated starling defending its worm breathes in the garden where yellow-green leaves turn to the sun and the grass holds shadows of branches. I will endure as this tree endures the history of weather recorded in its gesture. I will blossom. I will red. I will yellow. I will open white to a blue sky. I will stone, hard, mineral, quiet, unwavering. I will watch willow leaves drape themselves upon the air, a cardinal stamp its tiny feet. I will root, contemplate moss. I will not fear the air as I open like a flower, like this exact human can or that bee. I will learn to breathe again as that terrible lonely silence on the day I was born instructed me.
This is the first day of the age of frost when people's movements are coordinated, not batty and extreme, or motivated by the desire to eat or consume. All around the city, people are intent on calibrating their mood swings with the tender gestures of cave animals coming into the daylight with a curious cock to their heads. People move in the flattering light and get better at being robust and unkinked by doubt. They have all the things they need to arrange their days in the dark work shirts, raw denim, canvas day packs, and the like. They use laces on their shoes that signify a certain dynamic way of navigating through this most mysterious age of frost. These days have come upon us with a real force. Soon the people will cast spells, dig deep, and sleep with people next to them on thin, woven sheets. You can expect me to arrive on that day with a valid word for your list here in this age of frost. Scram. Do you remember when the crowds would disperse along the river and wander into the hills, split by the muted nobility of earnestness and palimpsests? Do you remember when the dirge of the day sounded regal and pointed, not harsh and blotted? Do you remember the lucrative jangle of rented spaces and wet-throated desire was for the warm, honey-loud spank of mulberry? Do you remember when the pastries were coarse and inedible, powdered not with sugar, but the richest cream of tartar? Do you remember when the moist towelettes would stack neatly in the vestibule, halting not just the flow of blood, but also of all thought and intent? Do you remember when the soft breezes of March carried birds that would fly in soft circles, signifying something new and slightly scary? This is called the clothing of my death. Every time I buy a new shirt or pants, I'm not sure if the clothing I'll die in has been manufactured yet. Perhaps a bolt of cloth sits in the warehouse in New Jersey somewhere that will be made into the clothing of my death. Or perhaps none of the cloth exists yet. Perhaps I'll get a shutter that will serve as a warning of some sort on the day the clothing I'll die in is being harvested or chemically mixed to create synthetic cloth. It could be years from the time of manufacturing the clothing until the day I buy it. How many years would I do city stuff in the clothing of my death? Like walking to the subway, sitting on a bench, eating in a restaurant, riding in a taxi, shopping in a grocery store, or strolling in a park. Perhaps the clothing I'll die in has already been purchased. Perhaps a favorite shirt of mine will be on my body when I'm taken to a morgue. The shirt will be cut away, and there will be no signs of anything harmful to the shirt done at all. But I will be too oddly pale to be napping, too blue around the lips and eyes to suddenly wake up and say, "This is not the clothing of my dead." Electric blanket. Once, I knew how to speak French. It made me peculiar and demanding. I would think of nouns, and the thing itself would appear in French. A pale yellow light was cast on everything. I bumped into things, scattered debris on the floor, made collages, and left paper clippings on the desk. Now that the theater of summer has made all the words shrivel, I can maximize my experience of the city with candles and room spray. Each one a scented facsimile of beach house or steel shed. I'll walk to work allowing only for the grip of the city, which is an electric blanket wrapped around my body. Storm Kings. I'm working on a project that will eliminate the need for anxious circumstances. I plan on plying my trade by documenting my analysis with nice paper and a fancy pen. The pages will shine in a singular way, bringing an urgent joy to your afternoon with the radiant fizz of my metallic alphabet. After supper, the muscle shoals will become bloated and plump, making it difficult for the inane and mopey to navigate its soggy surface. People will embrace you, while rare earth and silicone ooze from their cracks. I'll see to it that the stratagems for happiness are reinforced with the vigor of the Storm Kings. Yes, them. Syllables will roll off your tongue, giving people the impression that you are good at pronouncing words. You will no longer need a hushed, barely audible tone to confess your inadequacies because you will no longer have any to confess. As for being fudged or inept in the face of authority, well, your grace and neediness will be your license to hold things between your teeth as you F-U-C-K. You'll receive these details in the coming days via a Google document. I'll see to it that the delivery will accompany a template outlining a reasonable lack of worry, doubt, and most importantly, confusion. People will love you and position themselves in your life with the best view of your jaw in mind. There won't be a need for codes or naming principles because you'll always be too radiant and purposeful for that. And the last poem is called Soothing Poem. A soothing moment like in a garden. If a garden is soothing to you, then that. Yes, a garden with hyacinths, or what is that fragrant flower? I only learned the names of several flowers. I associated them with relaxation or something. So this, a day in the sunlight in a garden with some flowers I can't name. Great. I hope you understand what I'm getting at here is to soothe you into thinking you are okay and that I know a lot less about flowers than I let on. The air in the garden is the same temperature as your skin, so you should feel comfortable in your skin, just hanging out with the flowers I can't name for you like people can because they had relatives who gardened. They had people who took them out among the flowers and said, now this is named that, and that is named this. And so on until it sank in. You would know that someone meant when they referred to a particular flower or asked you to go pick a flower with a gorgeous sounding name in a bountiful garden. You know what to look for. You wouldn't just stand there going, look of it, the texture of it, the name of it, and quite possibly even the Latin name for it, which is really just a way of showing off. Anyway, I hope you are relaxed by this poem. It's been a real mindfuck of a day.
For coming today. It's really a gift to be here with you on Sunday. I was looking for poems to read and looking for some things around spring haiku theme maybe, or spring, and I kept noticing there was so much snow in my poems. I forgot I grew up in Minnesota for a while. But I found some that might have a little bit more flora and fauna in them. So I'm going to read some of those for you. Primrose Hill. The one with peach nails for foraging, the one sweet fruit gone sad, the little Buddha and bruise. There was pain in the spaces between the leaves. There were twins and a stroller on my path. There was a space between them too. I wanted to make that place soft, their tender feet and limbs, less water by weight than mine. Once are like opals, dull and still there, polished and still there, pink and still there. The sea I can't pull out of its shell, and its small crying when I open my front door. A tree is. What genre is a tree? A tree is just happening, no noun for it, always beating its head against a facade. It has nothing to say, it is already saying it. It will never be popular to be a tree again. Tree with all its walls burned down, naked, no friend. A tree is difficult to hide in bed. We can drink wine all night together. A tree is textbook language for 370 million years of trees stacked trunk to trunk in the Bodleian Library. No one would ever say a tree is made out of bad materials, even pre-Shakespeare. A tree is not a democratic multiple like mail order catalog. It is never thinking of composition. A tree is a rare institution being run correctly. It is an orchestra, most likely a violin spider. It has poems written under its skin in cursive and weaves clear fistfuls of food. A tree is an addictive quality in its anonymity. Do not nail the painting of the tree to its bark or post any flyer on it. A tree is insidiously narcissistic and self-awareness kills. Would you live another 100 years? I asked the tree. Yes, but if I had to survive what I survived for the past 100 years, the tree answered no. New Year on Bexhill. We went as far as the sea, and then the sea ended. Then we were together in the middle of everything. Me in my damp wool coat, sipping orange wine near the door. You in your invisible resilience, sleepwalking to the beach. Like the night was on fire, and you were the last one. I could perceive then what is not yet awful in nature. Watching the moon rise, and God had a peculiar blue bandage wrapped around his forehead. What did he do with those clear, bloodless clouds, connected and yet still disappearing? Femme maison. Paris was nice in the springtime. The marble top picnics along the canal, and in a corner, someone spoke quietly of bread redistributing itself into equal pieces of glass. Everything here too perfect to not taste, despite harm. Being a citizen is fantasy, mostly because I still believed in you. I felt pulses where there shouldn't be a pulse anymore. The city in its ever-present position vanishing. Then we arrived at the beautiful man-made sea. I maintained my legs in the mortal traffic, convergence of accidents, the colors of a different century, pale salmon walls, the winter impulse, the cinema collecting her archaic mass of pearls. I exited the garden and disappeared into another garden. When is a forest ever in chaos? I have two more poems that are kind of short. Stillborn. Without you, I was the wilderness, and inside of it, a trembling gate. The sun rising over the treetops, readying itself for its one life with no sound. The end of Lake Superior. It was cool and dark, azalea in bloom at the edge of the forest, the raw silk of it peeking out from its heavily ironed dress shirt. Still more surface area than flowing water, it was hard to live by glacial repose alone. The visible saints drifting again into imitation, into the world's late afternoon. We buried ourselves at her request. Thank you.
I've been drinking the stars, and they taste so good, like coconut rum, warming my belly, my teeth glow, and I smile so bright. He must love me. He spreads me out in the grass and feeds me his fingers till they feel inside of me, poking the pain, pocketed in my chest. He grapples for my ribs, begging me for one, just one. For a souvenir, he says. So I'll remember you, he says. But I draw the lace back over my ribs, and his fingers fumble onto my fishnets. And he flirts them up so bad, my thigh spells out bright and white, and I feel like the moon falling out of the sky. I have to close my eyes and kiss him so hard, he'll never remember my name. Wasteland. I've never had a home that I haven't found at the bottom of someone else's change jar. It seems an odd thing to say, but when you rifle through other people's lives, sometimes you find leaves of your own pickled in the refrigerator. These things taste like sauerkraut. At a time, I prefer pickled cabbage, and that's why I refuse to return to every man I've kissed. In New Hampshire, I learned to paint roses red, smiling as a safety beam. Would not discuss the emptiness of goodbye homes or its inversion, the mosaic of furniture stacked in storage units. I looked to my packed bags as at least a proof I was going somewhere. In New York, I tried to assemble a person someone might be okay with. That person was me, and I could not open my arms to the girl zeroing out on the sidewalk. In Bushwick, I let G belt my wrists over my head. In Williamsburg, the waiter pressed his chest against my back, pinning me a butterfly to bar. Flapping desiccated wings, I poured hours into wine glasses, wearing fishnets and a smile I was unwilling to let wilt. I didn't want anyone to see. My eyes drifting over candles to the lovers crossing their feet under each other's stools. But when the waiter waved his cigarette, asking me what my addiction was, I opened my mouth and told him. And when he kissed me into a corner, I left lipstick on his collar, an accident he'd wash out before going home for the night. Later, I learned it was all like this with him. Globes of ice down the backs of white blouses, threatening spilled water over a hostess's breast, his finger trailing spines. In Gravesend, I read Bart's A Lover's Discourse in the bathtub, believing myself Odysseus while feeling like Penelope with suitor's arrows pointed at her chest. For ownership, I crossed my arms, curling my fingers into my neck. In London, G pulled my body to his mouth. I held the wall and watched vehicles shadow puddles. I didn't see this man in my future, but that just goes to show how little of my future I could see. Dear Thursday, I committed too quickly to saving myself. Open doors are getting worse. I'm trying to reintroduce men to my diet. Tuesday, I'm scheduled for a man yelling at me on the train. I think if I leave by 6, Leor's kiss will make my lips swell. And that means I won't have to remember Sam, who told me to dress in daisies. To let others in, he said, you have to breathe the daisies out. But what if we're all just light, hiding in potato sacks? I think about Adrian, kisses in the grass, dead ants in my hair. Michael said men are afraid of women, but I feel like a child. In today's yesterday, I felt the most alive in Belgium. A nightmare that sounds romantic. The moon violined my throat open, and I couldn't stop lifting my soul from under my tongue, even knowing it's supposed to be the prince's kiss that dislodges this glass from my mouth. Not that I think about that often. Probably the Romanian the most. He wouldn't stop, desperately lonely. Entry into solitude. July 27th, 2007. Nothing happened in New Hampshire. A boy I love drew a walrus on a sneaker, and someday I believe he drew it for me. A man obsessed with silver shoelaces hung himself in his wife's boyfriend's bathroom. In France, I found myself faced with a hole full of shit, and I decided to hold it in till the next gas station. We drove for miles with expired plates. The police did not stop anyone, not us, not even the man who dragged me out onto the cement and told me to give him my everything. There was no July 28th. So I have 2 more. This next one is a wall of flowers. It wasn't a wall. You misheard me. It was a coat of daisies. When you were afraid or wary or washed over by the world of others, you could breathe in, pulling the daisies taut so no one could get through. But when or if you wanted, you could breathe the daisies out, the daisies expanding, creating many openings for what it was you were willing to want. Cartography. I have had to leave so much and many behind, that when I am left behind, I feel there is less of me each time. It is not like a ghost, being tethered to its former homes. It is like a ghost forgetting it ever had a home. On the platform, I told him I could help him feed his cat. Dear kitty, catnip, I said, tossing air catnip to air cat. I have to wake early, he said. Do you not want to hang out with me? I asked. I do, he said, but I've mapped out my life. There's no room. Sometimes it still surprises me that I'm not small enough to fit inside someone else's world. I can take a nail and scrape any surface for ocean. I lift floorboards for pieces of sky. How many times can I survive winglessness? How many leagues do I surrender without gills? They don't tell you in biology that the moon pulls the tides of our chests, our breaths crest skin away from our ribs. I think about slipping myself out sometimes. Could my body be a door? Could my soul slip out through the mail slot? I believe in all worlds connected, as if we were all part of a bleeding watercolor map. Everything is a little blurry, and I can't be the only one who's here. Thank you.
Okay. This is called This Fruit. Spring filled my nose, birds my ear. I drifted off, later waking with one less rib, but with my Eve beside me, offering fruit. She said, "This fruit, this tree, cried scales from my eyes." She said, everything is different. Verdant pulsing, and all this started with whisper. Father gave her no defense. And me, I had no defense against her and my own vanity when they joined. A fiery sword keeps us out of paradise, but no fiery sword stands between us as we try to sleep on rocky ground. How do you begin to say how things have changed? This is called polyrhythms. The speaker church bells chime across the street. You are still sleeping, and it's Sunday. You're at your softest then. Later you will be irritable and groan, your breath could be bad. Now I lie as close as I can to you. You're breathing, and Elvin Jones bang around in my head for hours. I pretend I'm watching you paint blue women over and over. Witnessing it once wasn't enough. I can't hold out anymore. Cicada thread. You found a dying cicada in the mailbox. That heavy morning we found one digging its way out of the baked ground beside our doorstep in Dallas. 17 years in the making. Just visible among the stalks of what Texans call grass, I wrote. You gave me a paperweight. I'm still explaining to people I work with. It's not a fly on a pile of shit. It's a cicada on a rock. It sits on my desk as I work, next to a Zen calendar that says, "Grasshopper, be the keeper of the graveyard when I die." Somewhere east. My Buick carries me down a highway lined with porches. Past the dead farms and dead grass the cows only pretend to eat. Past the porches where sit men who complain of sleeves in August, sit women who sit and complain of lead clouds, who watch for storms and prevail. This town grows old with heat, its wide planks of barns bleached to pale conversation. And somewhere east to Chicago, even the dogs have fled. Who waits, who runs? You say I'm too happy to be a poet. You ubiquitous you, floating in and out of my poems like clouds in a blue, blue sky. You say my pain is more frightened lamb than wounded lion. That I'm low on ink. And besides, I don't dress right. That's what you know. I am the guy on Atlantic Avenue with apricot hair. I am the swollen river, the $15 sandwich. I am the woman in head-to-toe black on a coral street. I'm the car stuck in traffic. I am the dog who waits, who runs up behind you and sinks yellow teeth into the meatiest part of your thigh. This is called The River, and it's my not very successful attempt at a ghazal, so forgive me for that. Cannons turn it golden brown like tea. Rowers dip their oars like me. Siddhartha learned with bended knee to listen to the waters flee. River waters flee across to the sea, taking with you my heart's key. From swampy beginnings we zigzag a path like bees. Currents exact from me, currents exact no small fee. Okay, these last two are very new. So this is called A True Story. Then there are the Wimbrow, a waiter in the large family of Scola Packaday, and a member of the Curlews. Their conservation status is of least concern, though the fine print reads population declining. And this last one is so new it doesn't have a title. Bath, bath, bathtub, tub, tub, bathtub. The thumping drowns out any music in the earphones, squeezed between bars. Bright light penetrates closed eyes. Bath, bath, bathtub, tub, tub, bathtub. Be perfectly still. There is a cage on my head, shoulders pushed to the very edge of the cage. We have to make sure we get the whole cervical spine. I breathe slow, think of my mantra, of my dog's deep dark eyes, of anything. Flash back to a moment in a hospital when the orderly shoved my ass in the air and a doctor drained fluid from my spine, as though it were an everyday task. Thank you.
I just want to share with you, I've been real into listening to marching band music, so I've been listening a lot to this song. Can you hear that? Okay, cool. And then I've also been listening to this one. If I had a microphone, I would just let it play, you know, because that's not letting me actually read anything. Y'all been listening to so many words, which is beautiful, you know, but it's hard, I think, and so thank you. It's hard to listen to words. It's like our internal world becomes externalized, and it's like a lot for us to like take in. It's like, wow, that person's feeling and thinking all that, you know, because we just see people walking around like objects so much, you know, beautiful objects, but objects nonetheless. All right, so I'm gonna read. This is my attempt at a haiku. 4 pages long. Sorry. It's called The Parade. Say to them gold-blowing horns, trumpets, saxophones, blaring bugles, burst from clarinets, saxophones, ululations, flutes, piccolos, drums, boom, 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 go our hearts. Say to them, listen to the triangles, twinkling like stars, and the marimbas and steel drums, and the congas telling stories of overcoming. Say to them, listen to the didgeridoos and even the kazoos. Crash, crash, crash go our cymbals. Say to them, this is a parade. I am with my sons in the streets of Harlem. I push the little one, 4-year-old Isaiah, and everything that comes with his cerebral palsy, in his wheelchair, a 10-ton chariot that moans and rattles like a busted baritone with loose change stuck in its belt. A step ahead is his brother, that sailor. Holy, holy, hallelujah, amen, strutting, back-bending, high-stepping, swirling, a magic baton, 9 years old, he is our drum major. Say to them, this parade doesn't have any signs or banners. We don't have corporate sponsors or a police escort. Say to them, we don't have a float, so we ain't floating. So to say to them, we have mismatched socks. Say to them, we need haircuts. Say to them, tubas like elephants calling. Say to them, trombones singing out, singing out. Say to them, we don't come seeking permission or forgiveness from any government, body, gang, or God for making our love such public love. Say to them, we are marching. Say to them, we are a parade to stop heartlessness. Can't you tell? Say to them, say to them, say to them, we are not playing around. Say to them, we're not exercising our imagination. Say to them, because Trump is not playing around. Say to them, because they are killing our trans brown brethren. Say to them, because the trees are on fire. They're burning, and the mindset of Mississippi is swelling. And they still don't get clean water in Flint. And California is quaking. And Sharif Clayton got shot and killed while holding the hand of his son outside of his mom's church. Say to them, even when and because sometimes it just feels so no, no, no. Say to them, we are marching. We are a parade to stop heartlessness. Can't you tell? Say to them, my brother-in-law is in West Virginia, prepared to face the most racist racism in the most Trump-supporting state, and you know what he's getting? Love. From old white men in gas stations who want to talk to him about Ebola. To people in the street saying hello and smiling. My brother-in-law is a black man, and he says that the same culture that's pushing him to be prideful also tells him that everyone is racist and hateful in West Virginia. But it's simply not the case. And he's starting to feel like the left is the racist, exclusive, hateful group. And even saying this puts him in social peril. And he says that yesterday he spoke with a young man who was a devout Christian, and he was high on all kinds of drugs, and he started talking about Jesus and his belief, and he realized that if they were in New York, the young man would have been avoided or ignored. And West Virginia is the monster? Say to them, he says he has to adjust his mindset. Say to them, we have to adjust our mindsets. Say to them, pay attention. Pay attention to your heart. Non-stop. Full stop. Say to them every drumbeat, every blast of horn, every cymbal crash, and cowbell, and didgeridoo, and kazoo, every triangle twinkling like a star is the chance for healing. Say to them, 4 years ago I delivered Isaiah with these hands. Say to them, I carried Isaiah's lifeless body with these hands. Say to them, through the misty dawn streets of Santiago, Chile, with these hands. Say to them, the doctor in the emergency room told me, está muerto. Say to them, my heart, this heart, his heart, our hearts even now. Xylophones, glockenspiels, vibraphones, sung, sang, sing out, no, no, no. Say to them, the day after Isaiah survived, Selah touched a butterfly with the tip of his finger. Say to them, the butterfly rests on a blade of grass, then flew into the sky. Say to them, I have photos on my phone as proof. Say to them, I haven't marched the same since. Say to them, the women's national soccer team won the World Cup. Say to them, we must become sustainable. Say to them, what is an illegal migrant? Say to them, this too is a parade. Can't you tell? Open the gates. Liberate the concentration camps. Children are not. Say to them, gold-glowing horns, trumpets, saxophones, blaring bugles, bursts from clarinets and saxophones, ululations, flutes, piccolos, drums, boom, boom, boom go our hearts. Say to them, I am with my sons. I am in the streets of Harlem. I push Isaiah in his wheelchair, strutting, back-bending, high-stepping, swirling a magic baton. Selah is our drum major. Say to them, listen to the triangles twinkling like stars, and the marimbas and steel drums, and the congas telling stories of overcoming. Say to them, we are marching. We are a parade to stop heartlessness. Can't you tell? Say to them, say to them.